lovers, and welcome. I want to start off by saying I am so blessed to be in a position to suggest tips and tools and even products that can help you lead a tantric life of liberation and expansion. And one of my absolute favorite places to purchase spiritual and sexy items is Wands. Wands.com, spelled Wands. Wands sells, you guessed it, crystal pleasure wands, along with so much more, including yoni eggs, free bleed blankets, other amazing products for yoni steaming. I've been using these products and products similar to them for the better part of a decade, and they have been incredible allies in my journey of sexual healing and expanding my orgasmic potential. And I'm so grateful to be friends with the owner, Courtney. She's amazing. She has so generously provided us all with a discount code for 15% off, and that code is Leola. Leola. You can use it on their website, www.wands.com. Again, the code is Leola, Leola, for 15% off. I'll also make sure that this is linked in the show notes. So thank you for listening, and you're welcome for the inevitable pleasure and healing that is coming your way with these products. Now, let's get into the episode. Hello and welcome to Talk Tantra to Me. It is such an honor to be holding space for this divine knowledge to make its way into your ears and lifestyle. Today, I'm sharing a very fun conversation that I had with my beautiful friend, Brittini Burton. We actually originally had this conversation on Instagram Live, and we talked all about my new book that's coming out in like a week, less than a week. It's coming out July 8th. It's coming out July 8th. Mark your calendars. I wanted to share this conversation with the podcast listeners because it was so good and juicy, and I feel like it gives you guys a really good idea of some of the things to expect in the book, because Brittini did have access to it, or she does have access to it early. So she's got some interesting thoughts from her first moments reading the book, and I also shared some parts of the book that she hasn't gotten to yet, and we talked about those, and it was just a powerful and illuminating conversation. So again, the book comes out on July 8th. It will be available on Amazon, so please buy it there. I would so appreciate if you bought it on July 8th or July 9th. This helps increase the chances of the book becoming a bestseller. And when a book is a bestseller, that means that more people begin to see and learn about the book because Amazon promotes those bestsellers. And I just want to say that, like, the mission of this book, there's two missions of this book. Mission number one is to drastically reduce the likelihood of sexual violence. How this book does that is by giving a sex education that is empowering, honest, and pleasure-based. So much of sexual assault happens because people have sexual trauma. There's a statistic by the National Crime Justice Services Institution. I don't know if I'm saying that perfectly, but there's a statistic that they have that states that people that are perpetrators of sexual violence are 10 times more likely to have been a victim of sexual violence in the past. And this book really highlights the truth that many of us received a sexual education that was inherently traumatizing or fear-based, or we had experiences around our sexuality that feel very contracting at the least to say. And that in of itself is increasing our likelihood of engaging in sexual activity in a way that isn't going to be empowering for ourselves and the person that we are engaging with. It creates fear and shutdown, and that also increases our chances of potentially avoiding our sexuality entirely and then it coming up in shadowy ways, or for us to become coercive sexually in an attempt to control a situation, or for us just to shut down the next time we are approached sexually as a way to self-preserve, which increases our chances of becoming shamed, or even more likely to be a victim of a Me Too moment, for example. So that is the first mission of this book, which is so near and dear to my heart. And then the second mission of the book is to have everyone have more epic, amazing sex and intimacy, which is also amazing and juicy. So we're really hitting two incredible sides of the spectrum with this book. And to me, it's just really important that sacred sex ed becomes a mission. It becomes a movement. It becomes a way of being that, again, drastically reduces sexual violence and also empowers people to have really epic intimacy and connection with the energy that brought them into this world. So with that being said, buy the book on July 8th from Amazon. Leave a glowing review, pretty please, so that more people can get access to this information. Once you buy the book, I also have some epic, amazing freebies for you. There's going to be a free book launch party that you'll get a ticket to, that's virtual, so you can attend from anywhere in the world. And you also get a month for free in my membership, the Higher Love Club. And next month, August, in the Higher Love Club, we're going to be doing a bunch of exercises and practices and talking about the book, and it's going to be such a fun little party, so definitely don't miss that freebie either. There's also some other bonuses, including you get entered into a drawing to win a gift card to Wands, which there's advertisements throughout this podcast for Wands. I love Wands. It's an incredible pleasure toy company. High vibe. We love it. Okay, I'm going to stop running on and actually let you guys listen to this conversation that I had with Brittini. Let's get into it.
We are live, and we're going to be talking to one of my dear friends, Leola, and she's actually a huge catalyst for me, especially for someone who when I moved to Austin 2 years ago, she really opened me up to the whole world of play parties and Tantra, and I'm so excited to talk to her. Oh, heck yeah, she's here. So we're going to go deep into that world and how it's so much more than what, as a society, we have been programmed to believe in. Yay! Hi!
It's a party. Howdy.
Yeah, you look so cute. I love the green.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I dressed up for this. Got excited.
I love that. I love that. That's great. Yeah, well, I'm personally really excited. I mean, I know that you just created I saw in your story that I was looking at 5 seconds ago, like you literally just got the physical copy of your brand new book, right?
She's finished.
It's so sexy. Seriously, so hot. And I had such an honor to read it before it came out, and it has so much wisdom, and literally it is what the world needs in this new era that the world is going in.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about it because the title itself I feel like is earth shattering, in the sense of everything that we have been taught is not necessarily what you actually need to know. This is what you actually need to know.
Yeah, absolutely. So I like to say that there's collective sexual trauma. And the title of the book, if you're not aware, is called Sacred Sex Ed. So it's a play on we all, most of us, especially in the Western world in America, we grew up and we had some kind of sex ed classes, but they were very far from sacred. They were often fear-based and shame-based. And we get to have an education that is pleasure-based and that is honest and empowering. And that's really what the book is about. The first part is really addressing that, as I was saying, we all have this
collective sexual trauma. It's my belief that our sex education is inherently traumatizing, whether we're talking about from our parents, religion, school, peers, not holistically, but it's quite hard to get through the early years of our life and not experience some kind of major contraction or shutdown or trauma around our sexuality and our sex education, just because of how we view sexuality in general as a society.
Yeah, I love that. How do you feel like you view sexuality now for
Yeah, it's a
yourself?
great question. So I view sexuality as this incredible, beautiful power that connects us to spirit, that connects us to the divine. So when you think about it, we're all here because of sex. Sex
Hmm.
created me, it created you, created my dog that's sitting here on the ground, all of the plants and animals. And in that way, like the foods that we eat. And when we heal our relationship to that energy, we become these massively powerful, creative beings. Two of the lineages that I've studied under Tantra and shamanic sexuality both recognize that, this energy is like the portal between the spiritual world and the physical world. And all acts that like are connected to that life force or that turn on are procreative in a way. So even if you're not, like trying to conceive a child, this energy can be channeled, it can be used to connect to divinity, to connect to spirit. I like to say, imagine what would happen if you had more intention around your intimacy and your sexuality. What would happen if you decided that every sexual experience brought you closer to your highest self and God? And that's what this book is about as well.
So casual. So casual. I love that. I think you made me remember this part of your book that you said in this. You like saying this in your book made me like really understand it, even though I'm in a space of like empowerment and your sensual energy and all that. But you said something in the book where it's like, look around you. Every single thing that you see right now, like your sheets, the lamp, the bed, the nightstand, the closet, the hangers, were all created from sex, not necessarily that object, but the person behind it, the idea behind it, that was created through sexual energy. And like what you said, like I know I can personally relate to like sexual energy being so much more than the physical act of sex. Like my creation, Big Pussy Energy, did not come because I read it in a book. It came from my own sacred sexual energy. But yeah,
Yeah.
when you said that in the book, I was like, that is fucking crazy. Like every single thing ever created, ever was actually really
Yeah.
created through sex.
Yeah. And I can expand on that a little bit because it can be hard to like look at this like wall here and be like, how was this
Yeah.
created by sex? But the idea is that like if you look around you seriously in this moment, everything that you see was either directly created by sex or was created by someone or something that was created by sex. So while this like wallpaper wasn't created like by like two wallpapers having sex, it was created like the material is made of paper that came from trees that were created by sex, and the pattern was created by a living breathing human that's connected to source that was created by sex. So that's kind of the idea that like when you start to see your entire worldview as like connected to this energy, it starts to become like way bigger. We talk like there's so many healing modalities that touch on, meditation and yoga and mindfulness, but they're not getting to like the root, like how we all got here, and that's like a
Yeah,
really big piece.
for sure. And I mean, I talk about like your play parties all the time to
Yeah.
people that I'm like in my life. And the reason why I bring it up is because it was like such a breathing ground for me to realize that like it sex is so much more than just the physical act.
Yeah.
Like I go to play parties more for personal development than to get like any sexual energy, which you've witnessed. I'm usually just there, like
Yeah.
just doing my thing. And I mean, that's like been my biggest teacher is going to environments that are so positively sex orientated so that you actually, for me, what I get from it is not actually the physical connection of sex. I actually get so much more of like oh, like I'm empowered through this energy, but it doesn't have to look like a certain X, Y, and Z way that we're all like programmed for it to look like even being able to speak our needs better and our desires more, like that all comes from that energy itself, because you're more deeply connected to like your sacral energy, which is like your life force and passion energy. And so like I want to go more into that too. It's like what was your idea of sex before? So like what was like how did you grow up with sex? And then what is like something that you want someone to really take away from like the book and like just from the lifestyle that you've cultivated for yourself and for like your community?
Yeah, I love this question, and that's very much the intention of our in-person events is like, let's create a safe space for you to explore all that you are holistically, including your sexuality and intimacy, again in a safe place where you have the tools that are
Mm-hmm.
needed for you to, know what your boundaries are, know where there's a safe edge to push, and to really claim what you deeply desire. And absolutely not, it did not always look this way for me. Growing up, I grew up in the Midwest, very conservative background, definitely had a traumatizing sexual education, and then also experienced sexual assault. And for a long time, I like thought that there were two types of sex. I thought that there was good sex and bad sex. And by that token, most of my sex was bad sex. And that wasn't because I didn't even know it at the time. I just didn't have the tools. I didn't know how to ask for what I wanted. I didn't know how to set boundaries. And I just didn't even really know what was possible.
Mm-hmm.
Occasionally I'd have a really good sexual experience, but I couldn't even put words to what that was. And over time, as I started to use more of a tantric perspective, to lean into full body pleasure, to slow down and heal my body and soften. Like I had so much tension in my body, like moving through the world to protect myself from the dangers that I'd previously experienced, not really realizing that tension wasn't helping me or anyone else. Like,
Yeah.
yes, it was maybe keeping me slightly safer, but it was also shutting me down, keeping me stressed out, and not attracting partners that were healed either. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, I went on this journey that I speak very deeply about in the book. The book is like lots of personal anecdotes, but then like real pieces that you can take back into your life. And, with time, I worked with different teachers and different modalities. And there was one that gave me a framework for, the different types of sex that we can have and the different types of intimacy that we can have. And I learned this through ISTA, which is the International School of Temple Arts. But there's four main types of sex. So we have reproductive, which is exactly what it sounds like, just to make babies. And I think that this is the most like collectively okay type of sex. Like it's like pretty much all cultures are like okay with reproductive sex. And in fact, they really encourage it. But like if I think about like I'm just having sex for reproduction, like I feel like an animal.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't land for me. Then you have recreational, which I think is the major motivation for people to have sex is recreational. So
Mm-hmm.
the intention is like to feel good in our bodies. Nothing wrong with that, but you might be leaving some stuff on the table.
Mm.
And then the next two types are where we really get into like sacred sex, like transformation and restoration. So those are restorative sex and transformational sex. So,
Ooh,
and
transformational sex. That has a freaking ping to it.
it does. And so this
Yeah.
is probably what the energy that you're tapping into at the play parties, even if you're not, having penetrative sex or any like type of sex, even just being in that energy
Yeah.
can be transformative or restorative. So restorative sex is like using intimacy and using your life force energy to heal your heart, your body, your mind, your soul. And it's basically understanding that, emotions are energy in motion, and we often trap those in our body, and that creates dis-ease in our energetic body. And this is all backed up way more with a lot more depth in books like The Body Keeps the Score and Becoming Supernatural. I go over it a little bit in my book as well. But yeah, the idea is that you're moving that life force energy, and it's clearing, it's creating space. Like I've had times where I have a headache coming on and I'm like, let me just see if I masturbate and that will clear it up. And oftentimes it does. One time I thought I had a UTI and I had my partner go down on me, and afterwards the UTI symptoms went away. And I think it's because I had contraction in my pelvic floor and that kind of helps clear it. So that's restorative. Should I go into transformational real quick, or should I pause? I feel like I'm kind of on a tangent.
No, I love this. This is like it's digestible. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, it's good.
great. So the last one is transformational, and transformational sex. Sorry, my phone keeps like slipping down. Transformational sex gives you this divine experience of changing your life or changing the way you see the world or yourself or how you connect with others. So it's some like very clear shift in your beingness that is transformational sex. Transformational sex can feel like out of body. It can feel like plant medicine. It can feel like cosmic orgasm, like I'm like outside of my body. But it could also be like just trying something new, like going to a play party or, you know, working with BDSM or kink or, you know, connecting with someone of the same sex for the very first time. All of those things can also be transformational because they're shifting your perspective to reality, and they're also like expanding your definition of what it means to love, and by that extension shifting and expanding your definition of God, in my opinion. So if you don't like God, you can also substitute spirit, universe, whatever feels in alignment for you.
Oh my God, I've actually never heard of this, and this is like so exciting to have like a term for that, and like how like the term of like, oh well, I don't know why, but I love play parties because it's like a personal development, but it's that sounds very um like emotional intelligence type of program.
Yeah, it does.
And that's like not actually what I mean by it, but it's exactly what you just said. It's the transformative sex. It's like I don't like you don't need to have like this experience of like this wild scene for it to be transformative. It's like it just expanding your consciousness of what's possible beyond what you knew before is what the transformative sex is. And I love
Yep.
that. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and
So
just even knowing like the different types and being
yeah,
able to call that in more intentionally. Like I had definitely had restorative and transformational intimacy before I knew these terms, but once I knew them, I
yeah.
could be much more intentional and have like an anchor point of like, you know, what I desire to experience more of. So sorry, I think you were gonna say something and I cut you off.
No, that's like I didn't know those terms until now, and I definitely had transformative, but now I'm like, oh, like literally, that's gonna be extremely helpful moving forward, like just anchoring in the intention and all that. I'm curious if there's, because like in my experience, like transformative has really only happened when I've been with like another, um,
Mhm.
and I'm curious if there's any practices that someone can do as a transformative intention with
Yeah.
themselves.
Absolutely. I'm even just thinking like one particular memory is coming in now, so I'm going to make this an anecdotal answer, share a personal story. But yeah, I had lots of trauma and shame around like anal play. And
Mm.
that came from, you know, my conditioning around like butts being gross and like that's like not okay. Like the Bible says that's not okay. And then also like I was sexually assaulted and like that region was a part of the experience. And so for years I like wouldn't go near that part of my body. And over like when I was really deep in my healing process of like, you know, honoring what happened to me and yeah, just rewriting my relationship to my body, reclaiming my relationship to my body, I started to explore my ass. And I just have this memory of me like laying in the bathtub and like playing with my ass and like, you know, being curious and being open and being like, oh my God, this actually feels good. I didn't know that that was possible. And also
Mm.
felt really empowering to explore that part of my body when previously it had been explored without consent, or I had, you know, I had taken on all of these projections around what it meant. So it completely shifted my perspective of that. You know, I've also had experiences with self pleasure that feel transformative in like calling in a deity or
Mhm.
an archetype or my higher self and really feeling that. the other day I was doing a like sex magic manifestation ritual, and I was like calling in a certain amount of money, and like I was like very technical, and it just like wasn't doing it for me. I was like, yeah, like this is fine. And then I started to be like, okay, what is the impact that I'm wanting to make? And that fucking turned me on so much. I was like, oh my God. Like it was like I went from like a 4 in my arousal to like a 9, like in 30 seconds, just by shifting like that little piece. And like that felt transformative to be like, oh, like I'm in alignment when I'm like really in my purpose. And that, and like connecting to that in that, like feeling that turn on in a sensual way was really reaffirming and transformational in a way as well. So a few
Okay. Totally inspired. And like, and I too now, like, it's so good. Like, everything just helps when the mind has something to hold on to. So, like, now that you shared, like, how it looks solely, like, for sure, transformative sex can happen solely. And it's so powerful. What was the other one? Is transformative, and what was the other one?
restorative. So reproductive, recreational,
So,
restorative, and then transformational.
okay, restorative was the one that's just, can you bullet
Yeah,
point
so
that one?
restorative sex is like the intention of restorative intimacy is to heal
Mm.
something, whether it
Ah,
be your body, mind, heart, soul. It's the kind of intimacy where you're like, oh, I feel more energized after, or I just
okay.
feel better. Like I feel like that, you know, that could be an example. You feel clear. Sometimes like restorative sex for me is like really primal and actually like, oh, like I'm getting out a lot of like repressed frustration or anger. That can also be, you know, quite restorative. And I'll also say that these intimacy types, these sex types, don't very cleanly like any sexual experience could be a number of these put together. So, for
Yeah.
example, when I do choose to consciously conceive, it's not just going to be reproductive sex. It's definitely going to be
Right.
like restorative or transformational as well. Like, and definitely recreational too. I'm not just like pump it in, give me that sperm. Like, it's got to
Yeah.
be, you know, a little bit more than that. Um, so yeah,
Oh my God. I think just having, and this is like all in the book, right? Like all these different types of that, like you're educating. Yeah.
yeah,
This is good. I'm so excited to like dive in more into it because it's going to really help people see. I feel like the old way of thinking is very black and white, like what you said, good and bad, like good and bad sex, and like religion really highlights like good versus evil and all those
yeah,
things. And like we're stepping into the new world where it's like there's actually no right or wrong, there's no good and bad, it's not black and white, it's actually how much can you hold and how much can you receive. And this is like bringing in so many different ideologies of what is possible and how it looks and different faces of it. And that's like because we hear about like the crazy primal sex and we hear about the like quick like bathroom sex that can be hot but also sometimes can't be. Like there's just like so many different like versions of it. And like what if they were all acceptable and they just have a different like way of looking at it, which is liberating for a lot of people.
yeah, absolutely. It's so funny. This is like bringing to mind like one of like those like bad sexual experiences that like on paper sounds really awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which was, I was like, this was when I was like 20, I think, maybe 21. I was on my way to Paris with my boyfriend at the time, and we had Mile High Club sex
Oh, you
in the
did it.
bathroom of the,
Yep,
and it was like not good, but it was like, I'm glad I have it on paper,
for
but it was
sure.
like, it's so funny. Like the intention wasn't there. Like it wasn't deep. It wasn't profound. It wasn't, and that's not to say that quickies are bad or wrong, because I've had amazing, transformative, like very quick, intimate, you know, experiences, but it just speaks to, you
Yeah.
know, what's available when you're really connected to the tools and you feel really grounded and regulated. Like we shouldn't have been doing that. I was like terrified I was going to get caught. Like it wasn't, anyways, that can also be hot too, but I'm going off on a side story. So bring it back.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's incredible.
Hello, lovers. Please bear with me for a brief interruption with a vulnerable share and offer from my heart. So, when I first began my journey with spiritual intimacy and sacred sexuality, all I could afford were books and free podcasts. I was just out of college in my early 20s and honestly very, very broke. And I'm so grateful for all the complimentary, kind words and affordable wisdom that have gotten me where I am today. Price shouldn't deter you from healing. It shouldn't deter you from living the life you love or from reclaiming the most powerful energy in your body. It's my belief that time and commitment are also very powerful investments, especially when you're just dipping your toes in the water. You'll know when it's time to make the bigger cash investments in your journey. But let's begin together today with free love from my heart to yours. As you've already discovered, this podcast is free and it includes so much life-changing wisdom, but I'd also love to guide you to some free offers that are on my website, including a downloadable sexual shadow work workbook and a pleasure positive meditation. Both of these resources are amazing places to start in integrating the tantric principles of expansion and liberation into your life. And you can access these at www.talktantratome.com/free or find a direct link in the show notes. Now let's get back to the episode.
I'm so excited. When does the book come out? Do you have a release date?
July 8th. She comes out July 8th, and she'll be available ebook, hardcover, softcover, and I'm working on the production of the audio as well.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. I saw that you're recording. That's amazing. What if someone read it, what is something that you hope that they get out of it? What's the change that you hope that they are able to physically or just prospectively experience after reading it?
Yeah, the intention or the main takeaway that I would hope that someone would take from it is to see that all of them is sacred and that all of them is okay. And there's no right or wrong desire or way to show up in your sexuality and in your intimacy. It's all about where is this coming from and getting curious and bringing it all online. The first part of the book is very much about shadow work. So clearing the things that are no longer serving you, really honoring what parts of my beliefs around my sexuality are mine, what part are, conditioning or lingering trauma or fear in my body. So my hope is that, you're able to move through that stuff and clear it so that then you can begin to step into a more illuminated space. And that's what the second part of the book is about. It's about, okay, now that you've cleared this, let's give you some tools that are going to be really powerful for you as you re-explore sexuality or as you re-educate yourself around sexuality. So things like learning about, different types of intimacy, things like conscious communication and sexy consent skills, alternative relating styles, figuring out what's best for you. A lot of people think oh, if I'm going to be sex positive or if I'm going to be, exploring sacred sexuality, I need to be out there wildly sexual, naked on Instagram like you, Leola. And that's not the case at all. What you could, and this is addressed in the book, you could find that your definition of expansive and liberating sexuality, sexual expression, and intimacy is actually treating your body like a super exclusive temple where only the high priest is, invited or whatever. It could mean super monogamy, but it's also about respecting other people for their unique expression of sex positivity. So for example, you could have that perspective of sexuality and intimacy, monogamy and being, more chaste in your movement and expression. And that feels really, again, expansive and liberating for you. But maybe you have a friend that pays her rent with OnlyFans, and being in celebration, being in good for her, not for me. Because if you're judging people for their expression of sex positivity, it's likely actually your shadow that's operating and projecting onto that experience. So that's, the second part of the book. And then the third part is really taking it up a notch. How can you use this energy to seduce the world into a greater good? How can you use this energy to be inspiration and evidence for, deeply connected, healing and empowering intimacy and changing your relationships and holding that high for the people in your life as well?
love that you said that connecting to your sacred sexuality doesn't mean that you're gonna be like all of a sudden poly or like just
Yeah.
like this like open sexual crazed being. And I think I truly, from my experience with like connecting women to their sexual energy, they're more afraid just to walk in, like for me the physical doors, or for you like just to like step into that space because of some of the like role modeling that our culture has really put out as sexual women, and it being like almost too much or scary, or like, you know, like I don't want to be
Yeah.
that. And that's in like giving permission of like connecting to your sexual energy does not mean that you're going to be this sex crazed being. It actually might mean you might be even more sovereign in choosing monogamy because you're choosing it and see it as an empowering place versus like this like chokehold of like this is all I can do because everything else is scary and unknown. And like giving yourself the permission to like sovereignly choose that, and it doesn't have to look like anything other than what you want it to be.
Yeah, you can explore sacred sexuality and be celibate. I've had chapters like that. This work is about finding out what is most expansive and liberating for you, but
Mm.
really knowing that it's coming from you. It's not coming from your trauma. It's not coming from your ex. It's not coming from your parents um, or your religion or whatever. It's coming from you, and recognizing as well that your relationship to sacred sexuality can change so much in your life, because it's not about what you're doing. It's about, is it liberating you? Is it expanding you and being curious? And like, that's the real beauty of this, that it can change in different seasons. You know, when I first like got much deeper into this work, I was way more celibate. I like stopped watching porn. I like before really stepping into this work, I was super into like kink and fetish and like all of this like wild stuff. And I completely like dropped it for like years, because that was actually, I noticed like a part of my wounding that was playing out.
Mm.
Once I healed that piece, I went back and I explored, you know, those things. And that's a part of it too, giving yourself permission to like try on different ways of being and get curious about what works for me in this chapter of life.
Oh my God. Well, I have this such a big feeling that this is going to be such a needle pusher in our society, like this book is. And I like see it like the cover up next to all the other books that people are like, you need to read, like come first and like pussy and all that. It's like, yeah, and sacred sex ed, because there's nothing out there like this, and such a digestible. And I love that you have like personal stories, so like people feel, because you as a human have such a huge range of life experience of like everyone at one point like can connect to your story in different ways. And I know that you're so vulnerable and able to like relate to people in those ways. And so I'm like
Yeah.
so excited for this book to come out, because I can feel the like impact it's going to create for people. And it's like such a positive, necessary impact. Like the world's been waiting for this kind of transcript and for so long, and now you have it, and I'm so excited for you
Thank
and
you.
us. The
Yes,
world.
it's edgy, it's scary. Like, I wrote this book and I was like, I can't believe I'm gonna tell people about this and make it like widely available. Like, it feels completely different than anything I've done before. I had one of my friends that read it and was like, wow, you're so honest. Like, and she's previously published a book, and I was like, so true. Like, this is like, my stories could, you know, really trigger people.
Mm-hmm.
They would have triggered me before I went through these experiences, but they're also really real and honest. And my ask when people read the book is just to be open-minded and curious, and gracious on themselves and me as well.
And did you write this book in like a crazy short time?
So I wrote the majority of it in
Yeah.
3 months. I wrote the
This
majority
is
of it in 3 months last year. Writing a book is such an initiation. That's not even like it. Like, writing the book is one thing, then the
yeah.
editing process, which took over a year. The
Oh
editing,
wow.
like, I even look at the book now and I'm like, honestly, like, I would change so much. This person that wrote this over a year ago is
Oh
like kind of different.
yeah.
And also, like, there's so much that's happened that I want to add, but it's
Right.
this thing where, like, with the book, you're always wanting to add more, and it just, at a certain point, you have to just like put it out and say, there will be another book,
Yeah.
you know. But yeah, it's exciting.
Oh my God, that's great. Yeah, especially because you've like so much has changed in your own personal life since the book was written, and like you've transitioned to a different archetype essentially since the book
Yeah.
has been written. And I can imagine that the next one's going to be even, it's going to be equally as impactful, but from a different lens. So that'll be
Yeah.
great.
We'll
Yeah.
see one at a time. I
Yeah,
had,
one at a time, baby. July 8th. We still got that one.
yeah, no twins in the book industry. I had a friend that said that writing a book, like publishing your book, so you have the writing stage, you have the editing stage, and then you have like the publishing slash marketing stage. And that part is kind of like birthing a baby and then like the baby growing up all at once because it's like it kind of just takes on its own life. So I'm really curious to see what that looks like. I'm really excited to have more conversations about it. I'm excited that this is my first conversation, more public conversation about it as well, and that it
Yeah.
got to be with you
Yeah.
too.
Oh my God, of course. I was like, yes, this needs to happen. I'm so excited. And like
Yeah.
Leola and I, just now I'm speaking to the outward people. You were like one of my first friends in Austin, like 2 years ago, and you're like, you're the reason that I know Thea, which runs Sex Talk Radio podcast, and you
Mm-hmm.
were like the person that completely opened me up to this like sacred sexuality that you now have a whole book on, and you were literally the person that stepped me into the doors to that, and so, and you are that for so many people. If even if you know them personally or not, like now that you have a space for that, and so you're not like from a person, a friend, like you are truly the embodiment of the door of sacred sexuality, like the catalyst for so many people. And so it's so exciting that it's not just people that you know personally, it's going to be millions of people who read the book now, and it just makes sense.
Thank you so much. It's been so fun to ride this wave with you because we have such parallel missions,
Mm-hmm.
and have been like in similar stages of like contraction and expansion and contraction and expansion, and also being in Austin.
Yeah.
And it's been such a joy to, yeah, just ride this wave with you and make impact. It's so fun to be an ally.
Yeah, for sure. It's and it's so amazing. I like don't know if it's just Austin, but like to be around so many powerful women like you and like me, and there's a whole community of very powerful women, especially in this space in Austin, and how we all like either really up close or from far are like celebrating and lifting one another up and raising one another. And so it's just such a powerful space that I'm so happy that we're all part of. Like it's not this like IG world, like in real life, we all like as a female community raise one another up, which is great. And I'm so happy for that.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's such a motivator for me in my work is
Mhm.
like in-person community and really experiencing this knowing in our bodies,
Yeah.
feeling that power, really, truly. And I feel so grateful that we have this in Austin, and I want to see it spread. I want to see more like sisterhood communities uplifting each other
Mhm.
in and celebrating each other in our sensuality and our embodied expression. And yeah, that's my ask with the book. I'm excited to see you too. Like you're going to be traveling
Mhm.
soon, right, to bring BPE to more cities. Like,
Yes,
yes,
ma'am.
girl.
Yes, yes. I mean, very parallel missions. Like I can definitely see you take your whole brand into different cities and do big events. And like you already have with your retreat and with BPE, it's the same. Like for women to connect to their sensuality in a global sisterhood. Um, and so we're fucking doing it, girl. And it's so exciting. And I'm so here for it.
Yeah, I love it. I
I
love
love
it
it.
so much.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. This was such a, like, I learned a lot. Like, I truly did learn a lot from this conversation. And I'm so excited to have a physical book in my hand to, like, I'm such a highlighter and I feel like I'm going to highlight and, like, really learn because there's, like I said, there's no, like, direct, like, I feel like I've read a lot of, like, sacred sexuality books and some are, like, they're kind of outdated now. You know, they're like 20 years, 30 years old. And some of them are very, like, I think they went with the science technical route so that they got like respected, and so it's a little harder to read, and so I just don't.
Yeah.
And so I know your style of writing, and I know you as a person, and it's like so much more direct and so much more relatable. So I'm really excited to have your book and read it and actually like be able to digest it in a way that's a lot more like digestible and friendlier to like a person who just genuinely wants to connect to themselves in a more sacred way.
Yeah, it's playful, it's conversational,
Yeah.
it's relatable to the modern world. You know, I read some like Tantra books,
Right.
especially, and it's like very technical, like practices, which are all great.
Yeah.
They're amazing.
But it might be like
And
level
are,
3, you
yeah,
know, like in your journey. Like this is a great book to just really dive in head
yeah,
first.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And also just trust that like your body knows what it's doing. It's more about just shifting those little perspectives and getting clear on what's keeping you from really experiencing the transformational intimacy that's available for you. And then just letting your body do the rest. That's a big teaching in the book, is to trust yourself and to trust your body.
Mm. Amen. Amen. And if you want to know how to somatically learn how to trust your body, you can go to BPE.
That's
Like
right.
a little bridge, BP on demand, and you can try it out for free. Leola, that's actually how we met, was from BP classes. Leola came to a class 2 years ago, and literally that class, she was like, "Are you doing anything this weekend?" And then that was my first like sacred sexuality party, and it was great. And I know, Leola, you have a monthly membership as
I
well,
do.
Higher Love Club.
Yes.
And I was in that, and it's an amazing resource as well. So it's a great like buy the book, go in the membership, really dive deep into it.
Yeah, in the membership, we'll be doing like a little launch party. When you buy the book, you'll get invited to the launch party as long as you like put in your email on my website, because I can't take your personal information from Amazon. But then you'll get to come into the Higher Love Club, get a little taste, and we're going to be taking some of the practices in the book into the community to actually like practice and talk about this stuff in community, so that you're not on that journey alone so much. But yeah,
Oh my God,
I
I love
loved
that.
meeting.
That's such a good idea.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to add, meeting you in Austin was like such a gift. Going to your class, and I'll just share like very briefly for those that, I mean, for everyone, but especially those that haven't experienced it. Um, Incredible. I was like in a period of my life when I came to
Yeah.
BPE where I just felt so like I just didn't like have a lot of motivation to move my body and to exercise, and I just wanted to like have fun in my body again. And like I was kind of newly out of a breakup, and yeah, I went to your class. So much fun. Like I was worried it was going to be like super like heavy choreography that I couldn't keep up with, and then I'd feel bad about myself because I couldn't keep up with the choreography. It was like not that at all. It was like listen to your body, have fun, and like be sexy. And I was like, this is awesome. And you're such a great hype woman and teacher that it was just, yeah, it was an immediate like, I need to know this woman. We are allies. This is happening. And so yeah, I went up and introduced myself, which I don't usually do in like a class like that or a fitness class. So
Yeah. Oh, so good. So good. I love that. It's such a good like start of such a great friendship. So I
yeah.
love that. Yeah. Well, thanks for popping on. I feel like we learned so much. Excited for people to buy the book July 8th. And yeah,
Yeah.
amazing.
Sacred sex
Well,
ed.
thank you so much, Leila. It's so much fun. Honored that this was your first time publicly talking about it. And everyone, make sure you get the book July 8th.
Yes. Thanks, babe. Have a
All
good
right.
day. Bye
You too.
everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
All right, folks, how juicy was that? Who is so excited to buy the book on July 8th? Again, Sacred Sex Ed. Buy it on Amazon on July 8th. And don't forget, after you purchase it, to go back to my website, talktantratome.com/book. From there, you will be able to put in your order number on Amazon, and then you get the freebies, including a ticket to the launch party and 1 month for free in the Higher Love Club. Do not miss it. If you're listening to this episode after the book is live, meaning after July 8th, you can go to the same website, talktantratome.com/book. That will give you more information about the book and also give you a direct link to purchase the book. So, with so much gratitude and love, have a sexy and spiritual day, and I'll catch you next time on Talk Tantra to Me. Ta-ta. Oops, just kidding. Still here. I have one last thing for y'all. I want to say that the internet is a really, really special place. It's why we're all here right now. And many of us, including me, wouldn't have discovered Tantra or sacred sexuality if it weren't for this nifty invention of the 20th century. And almost none of you would have found my work and my vision without it. I love the internet, and I deeply desire to expand beyond it, to experience more real life love, community, and connection. So I invite you to check out upcoming Tantra events at www.talktantratome.com/events, or click the link in the show notes. I can't wait to give you a big squeeze in real life. Okay, now that's it. Ta-ta for real. Ta-ta.